Fox 8, this is breaking news.
Good afternoon. I'm John Snell along with McDew. We're about to join a news conference involving Sheriff Susan Hudson about the escape from Orleans Parish Jail.
All right, let's listen in right now, live to the sheriff.
All right. You ready to go? Y'all ready? So we've been following the news coverage out here, and it is being made into a political issue. Political people are making this a political issue. I want to be really clear. This is a public safety issue, and we all need to continue to work together to solve it, to get these folks back in custody. And we are doing that. All of our energy at OPSO is going towards getting these folks back into custody and finding out exactly what happened. It's a fluid situation. When we're aiming to respond to all media inquiries as quickly as we can possibly do that, but I still have to investigate it, and the integrity of the investigation has to stand. We do acknowledge there is no way people can get out of this facility without there being some type of lapse in security. There's no way. It's almost impossible, not completely, but almost impossible for anybody to get out of this facility without help from the outside. We intend to find out exactly what happened. We know that, I want to say that we know that folks are normally locked down in this facility at 10:30 p.m., but these folks that were able to get out did so because of defective locks on the cells. I have talked about those locks since I got into office. I wrote a letter to the consent decree judge, to the city council, and everybody else who would listen. And every time I go to budget, I say the exact same thing. When you all covered our millage, I said the exact same thing. There are deficiencies in these facilities that cause public safety concerns. That's why the millage was so important. We'll get into that a little bit more as we move forward. I need to confirm that Kendall Miles is in custody. He is being rebooked for simple escape as well. OPSO deputies found him hiding beneath the car at the Hotel Monteleone parking garage, and he was transported to OJC by the Louisiana State Police. We also need to acknowledge that Keith Lewis, who was previously reported as an escaped detainee, was in a different cell. So he had been moved, but it had not been updated. So he is not on the run. There were 10, not 11, and he is in our facility and did not try to escape. The remaining individuals are being actively pursued, and our deputies, in collaboration with local and state law enforcement, are working tirelessly to locate and return them to custody. Now we're going to try and go through a little bit of the timeline of events, because what's being reported out there isn't accurate. What we noticed is that the detainees began yanking on a cell to pull it off track. These are the cells that we keep telling that we need to replace at great cost in this facility. They were able to break, that was around 12:23 a.m. They were able to break open a door. There was a corrections monitoring technician in the pod module to be watching that. They were still able to exit the jail about 1:01 a.m. after breaching a wall behind a toilet in the jail, and based on video surveillance, they were seen exiting a door on the docks where we normally bring in supplies, scaling a wall, and running across the interstate shortly thereafter. We have indication that these detainees received assistance in their escape from individuals inside of our department, and the escape was discovered during a routine head count at 8:30 a.m. this morning. The deputy who was on duty promptly notified jail leadership, and around probably before 9:30, we notified the United States Marshals Task Force, which includes all of our partners in the area, and that was before 9:30, about the incident. I found out myself about 9 o'clock and was on my way to the jail and moving through it. About that time, the exact time I can't give you, but it was before 9:30. I asked our personnel, have we notified NOPD? Have we notified our partners? I was told yes, the task force was notified. And then we were also able to discern that the NOPD was also notified through the Fusion Center. Now, when this went down, our first concern is to find out who these folks are, confirm, and then we've got to lock down the whole jail and find out, make sure nobody else is missing. That's the first thing we have to do. We also have people being moved out to court. We've got to confirm who those are. So this is a fluid situation as we're trying to get a handle on 1,400 people in this facility. So it was a fluid situation. We're still gathering information. We are investigating our own to find out exactly what happened and where those lapses were. But there were supervisors on duty, there were lower level folks on duty, and they all had a job to do. And we're going to find out exactly what happened. I'm going to now turn this over to Chief Jay Mallett, our Chief of Corrections, to talk a little bit more about the cell itself.
Good evening. We do know that there are several security breaches. We're investigating, but the primary security breach and concern is the facility's infrastructure. We've identified that we have a large number of high security individuals in a minimum custody facility. This particular breach of security occurred on the first floor of one of our security pods where we had slider doors. These doors are able to be manipulated by forced off the track that they're on, which allows individuals to enter and exit at will. We do know that some toiletries in a handicap cell was used to be removed. Some of the bolts, some of the toilets, some of the infrastructure, some of the fixtures were removed. We know that this could not be removed from the inside, so we are investigating that to see exactly who entered these areas, what kind of work was done, if there was work being done, and if this is an inside job. We remain fully committed to locating the escapees. We're working with local and federal and state partners. We continue to ask the public for their vigilance, and if anyone has any information about the whereabouts of these individuals, please reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, this incident has once again highlighted the critical need for repairs and upgrades to our facilities, particularly to ensure that doors and locks are fully functional. We currently have 24 pods, and our staff is stretched thin. We are only at about 60% staffing. We still need 150 deputies in this jail and another 50 for the new jail about to open. So we're actively, and I have been actively advocating since I got into office for more money to fix these broken parts of the jail that make it unsecure. And just this week, we went to a capital budget hearing to lobby for more improvements to address just these issues, which would help improve security and safety for both the detainees and our deputies.
All right, we'll take questions. What do you think?
Sheriff, how many people did you have on staff for this overnight shift that would have not reported this between 1 a.m. and 8:30 a.m.? And wouldn't they have to have known about it if there were plumbing items removed and they were able to get out and there was no notice until 8:30?
Sure.
So I'm going to turn that over to Chief Mallett.
Good question. We actually had 4 supervisors and 36 staff here. That's a pretty, low ratio, but that's what we had. On that particular part, we had a monitoring individual that was actually on site. Where we believe that the exit occurred was behind the cell wall. The staff that was available at that particular time of day, without going into too many security restrictions, wouldn't know that that was going on behind the scene. That's more so a physical plant infrastructure deal that we do more routine daily type inspections of to make sure that these things are right.
Wouldn't they need power tools or something?
And that's something that we're investigating, because you're absolutely right. It was more than just a breach of security. It was some type of help, and we've been researching, we've been looking, investigating, looking, and it would definitely be some type of tool used other than just the strength of a shared individual.
Shay, and you mentioned a technician earlier. Why didn't that person alert staffers earlier? I know you said somebody was also in the pod at the time and that they were still able to get out. If you could kind of run through.
We're still running through the timeline to narrow that down. That is part of the job, the duty and responsibility. That's in everyone's post order. So we're still trying to narrow that down, and as we get information, we'll be sharing.
And then also, have the family members of these escapees been notified? Do they know? If you could kind of talk a little bit about what they're saying?
Yes, some of them have reached out to us to try and help. So we're very grateful for that. We obviously don't want to identify what's going on there, but we're definitely getting some help on trying to locate them.
Sheriff, you said that people are politicizing the escape here at the jail, but we talked with Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick early this morning. She also made it very clear that her department, we talked to the U.S. Marshals, we talked to Louisiana State Police, none of them say they were notified before 10:30 a.m. And then once again, y'all said that y'all discovered this at 8:30. Why wasn't the public and partners, local, state, federal, made aware of this sooner?
So I verified, so we have people on the U.S. Marshals Task Force. That's who we notified to make sure the whole task force is ready to roll. And they've been ready to roll since then. So I'm not sure how those up at the top found out, but I know that we notified the task force earlier because our members sit on it. And they came also up here to check on it. So we know that happened. What was your first part of your question? Chief Kirkpatrick has been nothing but a help to us, and we're very appreciative of both the state police and the New Orleans Police Department.
But once again, you all said that you all made the discovery around 8:30 this morning. The escape happened early hours overnight. Yeah. And once again, public was not notified until 10:30 when y'all's press release came out.
So I found out about 9.
So why wasn't the public known?
We have to find out is what happened. So you got to go inside the facility to be able to see. They could have been anywhere. We have to make sure that's exactly what happened. We have to pull all the video and find out what happened. That takes a little bit of time. Then we had to first prioritize talking to victims to make sure they were safe and making sure law enforcement could respond to them if they needed something.
I know Superintendent Kirkpatrick.
My bad. You said that they yanked on the cell and they were able to get out and they ran across the interstate, but how were they able to get off the jail property? And also, have you lost trust in your deputies? Because you believe this is an inside job.
Some of them. We have really hard-working deputies, but we're not going to tar and feather everybody with the same brush. We're going to find out exactly what happened, who's responsible, hold them accountable both administratively and criminally.
And how did they get off the jail property? That was my question.
Get off the jail property. They went out a loading bay door where we bring in supplies, and then they got over a wall. I'm not sure if they used the Chief Mallow can tell you more about how they actually got up there.
What we saw was they left, went through an exit door that's in between the actual cell block and the pipe chases. And this is a large facility, so the pipe chase, the exit door, for some reason or another, was designed to lead directly outside. The individuals left out the door, went down the stairs, went to the perimeter wall and scaled the wall. We did some looking today and realized that it's some razor wire that we need to put up, some issues, but they scaled the wall, jumped down, and then you have a clear path to the railroad track or the interstate.
Sheriff Hudson, will you be releasing the surveillance video that shows the escape?
I think we're going to... Right now, we're part of the investigation going on, but I think eventually, we'll be able to release that. We just have to make sure it doesn't give out any security risks for us, for the rest of the folks here still in custody.
Sheriff, do you believe that you need to revise your policies?
Go ahead.
Thank you. CBS News, I'm Katie Weiss. Pleasure. I wanted to ask you a little bit. I can't help but notice all the construction that's going on in your backyard. Does that have anything to do with this? We just saw a police escort bringing in a bunch of concrete. What's going on?
I don't believe it does. That's the new mental health jail, and there's a deputy on duty right there for the gates being open to bring in trucks or whatever needs to come in.
And you said you've been asking for money for a long time. How much money do you need at this point?
The locks alone, I believe, are
5.2 million.
Yeah,
just for the locks.
Just the locks. I mean, 5.2 million.
9 people are still on the loose, just to clarify. So it's 9 people, 10 escapes.
9 people are still.
Sheriff, do you feel like you need to revise your policies on notification to the public as well as other law enforcement?
To answer that question, Sheriff, thank you for your
Sheriff didn't really answer that question. If we could.
I'll tell you this, we're going to debrief on everything that went right and went wrong, and we will move accordingly to make sure that for every incident that occurs that we do the best that we can. We'll look at it.
What about getting the photos out, though? I mean, to get the public aware of who is out there, there was another delay before that was released to the media so we could put it out to everybody.
We have to confirm who it is and pull their information. That's what the delay is.
And there was also a delay with getting the photos to other law enforcement. NOPD also said that as well.
I've answered the question.
Yeah, we'll have another
I've answered the
briefing
question.
at about 5:30. So if you have any more questions, you can call me directly. Y'all have my email, so you can call or email me directly. And if you have any more off-topic questions, I can ask you.
Yeah. So I'm just curious about.
Sheriff Susan Hudson, they're wrapping up a somewhat defiant Susan Hudson, who's saying that people are making a political issue out of this, what is a safety issue. The other headline of the day, really, I think, is the openness, Meg, with which she and Jay Mullet, her correction chief, were talking about this being investigated as a very likely inside job.
Absolutely. They mentioned that a number of times, that they, want to make sure they know if any of their deputies or any people who working in the jail were involved in this. They certainly opened the door to that possibility, making it sound like a very real possibility, possibility that these guys could not have gotten out in the manner in which they did without outside help.
The quote actually from the sheriff was, there's no way they can get out of the facility without a security lapse and help from the outside.
Yeah. Absolutely. I also just got some new information in just minutes ago from Brian Lagarde, who runs Project NOLA, which is all the crime cameras around the city. So we know that the sheriff was talking about the timeline here. She found out about these escapes at about 9 o'clock in the morning. The alert went out to the media at about 10:30ish. So I'm being told that Troop NOLA, which is the Louisiana State Police troop here in the French Quarter, they got the information on the escapees at 10:35. So roughly 5 minutes after the media found out. Within 10 minutes, they were able to put the pictures of these escapees into the facial recognition platform. Just 10 minutes later, they got 2 hits on that system. They were able to track 2 of the escapees in the French Quarter at about 11:12 this morning. One of them, we know, Kendall Miles, was picked up right in front of Hotel Monteleone. The other person, the other escapee, walked off and was able to get away before state troopers were able to get him. But obviously using facial recognition to try to help find these escapees, we know 9 of them are still on the run at this hour.
And striking how quickly, as you point out, they were able to do that.
Within just 10 minutes, but again, they weren't even alerted, state police, until 10:30 this morning, when this head count was done at about 8:30 this morning.
Right, there is the sheriff said she found out about 9 o'clock, so the point of disagreement, in fairness to the sheriff, is that she is saying that, there's about a half-hour period, but there were a parade of other people who, frankly, when you talk to them not on camera, were even more insistent that there was a lapse of a couple hours here when time was lost.
And especially when you heard from NOPD Chief Ann Kirkpatrick, who clearly was upset that she, as the chief of police, did not know about this until 10:30 this morning. I mean, how could you not alert the largest law enforcement agency in the city that you've got 10 escapees out on the run?
And I think for the future, the question also will be, the sheriff is saying, well, look, we alerted the task force.
Right, but the U.S. Marshals task force.
However, whether they're not alerting the right people, whether there's some other bureaucracy, for whatever reason, it didn't get up the food chain until a significant amount of time had passed.
And the sheriff did say, look, we had to go through certain protocols. We had to make sure everybody else in the jail was locked down, so A, nobody else could get out, but B, to make sure these guys weren't somehow in the building. I mean, obviously it's a large complex, it's a large facility, so they wanted to make sure before they put out this alert and really, concerned the public, that these guys were not inside that facility. And she also said they made a point to contact every victim, too, of the different men who were involved in these crimes, to make sure those victims knew that these guys had escaped before they put out this other alert to the public.
Well, and part of the issue here from the PR standpoint is there were no, they vowed transparency at the first news conference, then took no questions,
right,
which sort of had people kind of loaded for why aren't we getting answers? I think one of the things, as this gets unpacked and as people, the heat of the moment settles down, will be, how long does it take? What was the gap? What's the process? Because it is a life and death situation for people who might be witnesses in a case, might have relatives who were targeted by somebody who's accused of a violent criminal, that sort of thing.
And we heard from the NOPD, they actually had to move a family out of this area to keep them safe. One of the escapees was actually already convicted of the crime that he was in jail for, second-degree murder. He was convicted of 2 counts of second-degree murder, and the other men were all just arrested for crimes. They were not actually convicted of those crimes. But that gentleman, Derek Groves, who was already convicted, that was for a Mardi Gras shooting on Mardi Gras Day that killed 2 people and wounded 2 others using an assault rifle. So these are guys that had very serious charges lobbied against them that they were in jail for. And so obviously there's, you know, a danger to the public when you've got these people out on the street.
Right. Another point the sheriff made is that there are defective locks on cells. This apparently took place in the back of a cell. She says this is an issue that at budget time she has complained about. But, you know, one of the striking things, this is a relatively new facility.
Yes, it is.
And with obviously some serious security lapses.
You know, and the sheriff has been calling for more money from the city council, from the city for a long time now, for many years. I mean, we just had the millage renewal pass, what was it, 2 weeks ago, that the sheriff was asking for this 10-year millage to help. She wanted to, you know, increase pay for deputies, help keep them with retention. So she has been asking for a lot of money, and she was saying, I believe $5 million is how much they would need for the new locks on the jail. And just to kind of give you a sense of how these guys were able to get out, as you're looking at pictures that were provided to us by the sheriff's office of this particular cell, that is the toilet unit there, that the guys were able to pull the entire toilet unit off of the wall.
With perhaps some power tools being used maybe on the other side.
Yes. And able to cut that hole through the wall, and that's how they were able to escape. They also said that the doors, apparently in this pod where they were housed, they were very easily able to get off the track. You could pull these doors off of their track to pull them open. One of the deputies who works there at the jail saying that a lot of these individuals were high security individuals, but this was a minimum custody facility, meaning they should not have been housed in this area of the jail. So they were able to get the doors off the track, then pull that toilet unit out of the wall, cut a hole, escape, and then they were able to scale a wall outside the jail and run across the interstate.
Again, in a modern facility, this, you know, people have talked about the Shawshank Redemption. This is not somebody who scratched at a wall. This is
for years, right?
This is perhaps the use of power tools, perhaps on the other side. So that's where we stand at this point in time. We'll take a break for about an hour here and have more of our coverage coming up. Reaction to what the sheriff said and more details on this escape of now